This week on the Droids, is Disney remaking the sequel trilogy? No, they're not remaking the sequel trilogy. The Obi-Wan series starts production soon, and then, of course, we complete our part 1 of The Light of the Jedi. We also talk to a human who's never seen Star Wars, if you can really believe it. All that and so much more this week on the Droids. Welcome back to the Droids You're Looking For, a Star Wars podcast. Alongside Chris and Ryan, I am Mike. And guys, it's true. All those rumors out there, Cosmic Book News, whoever's talking about it, they're not remaking the sequel trilogy. It's not happening.
My gosh, Mike, you scared me there at the beginning.
I mean,
I thought it would get
but
you.
I do have it on good authority.
All of our tweets that everyone has ever appeared in a Star Wars movie have gone in vain.
I do have it.
They're not remaking the sequel trilogy?
I do have it on good authority by, I can't remember the YouTuber's name, but it's going to happen.
I just want to remind people, as consumers, sometimes you just aren't happy with your purchase. You know what I mean? And that's just what happened.
That's just what it is. You just keep it in the box. It goes in the garage.
You still got what you paid for. You know what I mean?
It's fine. It's fine.
So it's you paid to see a Star Wars movie. If you didn't like it, you still saw a Star Wars movie. That's what you paid for.
The rumor mill has really been kind of going back and forth on this, almost like there's nothing else to really talk about. Because I feel
almost like there's nothing going. Well,
there will be egg on our face if they decide to remake.
Yeah,
the
I was going to say. I would say. I bet you they would venture into the realm of some kind of parallel story. I don't think they would ever outright.
I think it would be years and years. But
the
Mandalorian.
What about a movie during The Force Awakens where we see Luke do a bunch of stuff on that little island?
Maybe. But the thing
you think they're gonna lean more into the island,
or how he got maybe
the more
takes
time
a
that
trip
he spent
off
away from being the hero.
Maybe he steps off the island and he has a crazy adventure one last time.
Well, hey, anything's possible now,
Yeah.
but I think it's funny. There's a lot of rumors that season 3 of The Mandalorian, because Jon Favreau said something about how eventually the series would lead to the sequel trilogy and maybe even introduce more of the First Order, that they're like, Jon Favreau's saving the sequel trilogy. He's going to change it in The Mandalorian. It's like, okay.
All right.
Hey, The Mandalorian got nominated for a Golden Globe.
Hey,
that was weird again.
You're welcome. Mandalorian.
I mean, look, if it was the Emmys, the Golden Globe's the Golden Globe. I mean, throw anything against the wall, it's going to get a Golden Globe.
If you go to a luncheon, you'll get a Golden Globe.
Yeah.
That's true or false? Does the Droids Pod have a Golden Globe?
No.
Nomination?
Because we don't want to play their game.
Yeah, that's right.
Listen, if we wanted to suck up to the Hollywood Foreign Press Association and schmooze and booze all over, we could get a Golden Globe.
Open door
nomination
policy.
or an actual
Anyone
Globe.
from the HFB wants to come in. Come on.
Did you say HFB? You mean
HFP. Hollywood Foreign Press.
The HFPA.
HFPA. I just was going with the acronym.
Chris
Talking the
doesn't
lingo.
respect him enough to even use the whole acronym.
I just made that up. All right.
Look, this was a great season. We all enjoyed season 2, despite any, questions we have about choices made in it. It was a very entertaining season of television.
Sure.
Does it deserve to be best drama? No, of course not. It doesn't.
The category is weird.
Yeah.
I understand it's not a comedy or a musical.
Yeah.
But I mean, I understand we're a Star Wars pod being it's weird. I'm just saying it's odd considering the amount, considering many of the things that didn't get nominated for Golden Globes.
Yeah.
What's
I
weird?
loved The Mandalorian. I obviously had my problems with it, but I also put awards contenders and shows I really like in different buckets. And the Venn diagram overlaps a lot, but it's not, I never thought The Mandalorian was man, oh man, this should be up against.
Yeah, right. I can't wait till this thing went. I never watched Star Wars. I think it's been said on the pod too. It's we never watched Star Wars to be this is going to be an Academy Award winning Star Wars film.
Which I mean speaks more to how the awards stuff is structured. But
it's almost like its
also,
own genre.
I think for The Mandalorian to be taking up a slot that like many other shows that could use the attention, it's just a strange thing.
Well, and I think I haven't watched all of it. There's several series, but I May Destroy You on HBO.
Right? Yeah.
I mean, it didn't get nominated, and how? Because every single
that
television,
it was not nominated.
Yeah.
every single critic I've heard has been head over heels, and I can't wait to watch it. And just to think it didn't get nominated, and The Mandalorian did. Okay.
Yeah, it's just. I mean, listen. The thing I was saying to a friend is like these like awards things mean nothing really, but they also mean a lot. So it's like it's all ultimately meaningless because of things like this, where it's like it's so over the top ridiculous the things that do and do not get nominated. But at the same time, from a cultural standpoint, it is significant.
It's
the things that are recognized.
Yes, it's like a beat. It's a beat on the culture at the moment, even though the actual award itself is probably insignificant. What it's saying out loud is significant,
right? And then what it's saying about these kind of like institutions that are still deciding these things and like how behind they are. So we didn't even plan on talking. We weren't even planning on talking about this, but
yeah, here we are. But I have to think The Mandalorian has to thank its lucky stars. It's not in that comedy category going up against that Ted Lasso. Because if it did, Mando, you got
mustache,
no shot.
I gotta tell you,
beats helmet 9 times out of 10.
Mike, I got to tell you, watched Ted Lasso, liked it a lot.
Oh, good.
There
I mean, if you didn't, we'd have to have a conversation about a different Ryan.
Has anyone watched Earth to Ned?
Still working my way.
Is that best drama? Is that up for best drama? Did that make the cut?
Yeah, it was The Mandalorian, Ozark, Earth to Ned.
Ozark. Who's watching Ozark? That's my question.
That's my question too. My parents are watching Ozark, and every time they tell me, I'm like,
it was good, but it was like
5 years. Everyone's talking about Ozark.
Breaking Bad light.
Here's the thing about these shows is that I feel about these awards, Emmys, Golden Globes, with television shows, that it's like, if a show is good and continues to be good, it's kind of like waiting for someone to like die out of a job. Where it's just like, Mad Men was on for 7 seasons. It continued to do what Mad Men did.
Right.
And so it was going to occupy the best drama slot until it was off the air.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, but it does the same thing every time. So it's like, can't we put other shows in there? Like Ozark is very good every season, but it's like every season is pretty much the same thing.
Right.
So it's like, do we need to keep recognizing Ozark for achieving what it already achieved?
If you're going to go all in on a show after Lost won season 1 best drama, keep giving it to them. I mean, they got weirder, they got different. They didn't keep just doing the same thing. Or keep giving it to them.
Do you think they do the thing like they did with Lord of the Rings? Like they just gave Return of the King all the awards?
That's what usually at the end of a series run, they give the lead actor.
That's why award. The most wonderful and magnificent Coach Eric Taylor got himself an Emmy finally at the end of Friday Night Lights. He didn't get anything up until then.
Right? Full eyes, clear ears.
No,
can't win, baby.
That's the motto of this podcast. Hey, I think we should just start adding Golden Globe winner, the droids you're looking for, in all of our titles. Why not?
Yeah. Does anyone write in if you're if you're someone out in the industry? Out there in LA, let us know how litigious the HFPA is about people.
Right. I just said the HFP. That's why I said that.
Oh, it saves winner of the Golden Globe by the HFP.
Golden Globe.
The droids you're looking for.
The Golden Globe. C-3PO.
You can't dispute that.
Anthony Daniels got vaccinated.
That was another big bit of news. Good old Anthony Daniels. He'll be around whenever they need him for a solo series. Not solo, but
do you think he
C-3PO
asks
solo.
to be in stuff?
Well, he's in Droids, so that's on the way.
Of course.
But glad to see him out there getting glad to see anyone out there getting vaccinated.
Yeah.
Exactly. Other news, K2SO, we had Alan Tudyk at the D23 presentation back in the before COVID, where he came out on stage, and he was expected to be in season 1 of Andor. He will not be. He has not done anything yet. They said he will be in the series as time goes on. But K2SO is not going to be introduced in season 1. Kind of odd, though, to like trot him out, in front of everybody.
Do you think
you weren't planning to bring him in? They probably didn't have the script done at that point.
Do you think he's in the show as himself?
Yeah, he could be as a cameo.
That's disappointing. It's disappointing just because I like that character a lot.
Could you also believe that maybe he's misdirecting? I don't.
Yeah,
he may be misdirecting. He may because I believe he did the motion capture for K2SO, right?
He did.
It may just be that they're having him do a voice. Who knows?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe
it was
it's
interesting
misdirection, though. Maybe he'll
about,
show up in the last episode with a green lightsaber and everybody will freak out.
He did say
I can't wait to take the 2 montages of people freaking out for Luke and put it to K2SO.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
TikTok.
He did exactly. He did say that he would. He's getting a little up there. I think he's 50, and he doesn't know how much longer he can do full motion body capture. What? So that's why he's like, "Can I get in the series sooner rather than later?" So I think that's a hope to have him.
At least droids are a little like stilted in their movement.
Yeah, but he was on literal stilts. What a good
wild.
4 feet high on each leg. So that was a lot of work for him.
I'm starting to think all of this motion capture is unnecessary, and that they could just animate it.
Do you think do you think we're gonna get a Star Wars movie where they just they get one of those robots that they built that will take us over? You know, the ones I'm talking about. That there was like a viral video with all the robots dancing and stuff.
You mean like the
actual ones?
Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about? I can't remember the
name.
Yeah, I can't remember the name now. Do you think that they'll actually cast one of those eventually in a Star Wars movie? Just like a real droid walking around. Wouldn't that be something?
That
that
would be something. I'm not sure how the unions would feel about it.
You will see them.
And then if it does a good job, let's replace the actors.
They're called Osimo, aren't they?
There's Osimo. That's one of them. There's a few of them.
He can run.
Yeah.
You mean the Eric Cartman South Park episode, the Osimo 5000?
No.
Yeah,
Osimo is a robot I saw at Epcot Center.
That was by Honda. Yeah.
Well, speaking of, yes. I would imagine at some point the droids that fill Batuu in Disney, they will be those droids, right? They would. That's a good place that you're not eating up any actors.
I thought you were talking about us going to Batuu.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah, true. One day. This is the lesson
we just have The Sims 4 expand.
You just go. You just go as soon as you can. You don't wait for everybody's schedule. You just go.
What, yeah.
And
eating air fryer chicken and playing The Sims 4, not the same experience.
It's not a Ronto rap.
Hey, Chris, congrats on the air fryer.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was just sneak that in there.
Well, I do want to say, as only other bit of news, High Republic is continuing to expand. We know there's already been the main book that we're reading, Light of the Jedi, and we're going to talk about that here in just a few moments. But Into the Dark, the Claudia Gray book, comes out Friday of this week. We're recording this on Thursday, so you probably already have it if you've been looking forward to it. So
I have it pre-ordered.
An expansion, different age bracket. I think, we'll see where we are on the pod. Likely not going to do the full chapter by chapter breakdown, but I'm sure we'll have a reaction from those of us who read that one as well. So you can look forward to that.
I'm getting self-conscious where I'm like, is that how fast most people read?
Meaning, that the book,
that they're ready for this book. But I don't know if it is a different age bracket.
I know they did. They said it's a young adult book.
It's meant for babies.
Yeah. Because it was laid out on the Star Wars website that there's the adult book is Light of the Jedi. This one is meant to be young adult, I think, in some way.
Interesting.
It's at 12 and up on the Amazon page, but I'm pretty sure that's what this said.
A lot of the products.
Either way, I'm at a 12th grade reading level.
So cool. Well, of course, follow us across social media, Twitter, DroidsPod, Facebook, Droids Podcast, Instagram, DroidsPod, YouTube, DroidsPod. Check out the playthrough of Fallen Order. Don't forget that. You got to watch it. TikTok, DroidsPod. We got a lot more TikTok. If you're here from TikTok, thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show.
We're like one post away from being the morning boost on the Today Show. And for all my Today Show heads out there, you know what I mean.
Oh yeah. If you need that's true. We're gonna get on there. Can we have that campaign? Get the droids on morning boost.
Who would you want to be interviewed by, really quickly, of the Today Show people?
I mean, obviously, I think Al. Al would be
so he's the dream, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like Al Roker is an American treasure.
He's the institution.
He would not be the one to interview us.
Not the Today Show guy, and this is funny.
So like obviously, I don't want a Harry Smith segment.
Guys, we got to get to the Star Wars.
We'll get there. Okay. So I'm going Al. My number 2 is Craig.
Okay, I like that.
I love Craig.
I do Al, or you know what? If Hoda wanted to,
I think Hoda would get a real kick out of us.
Yeah, I like it.
I really do.
I do know Savannah Guthrie is a Star Wars fan, so
yeah.
Is she a Star Wars fan, or did she interview a Star Wars personality and have to pretend she was a Star Wars fan?
Who, Savannah, are we talking about?
Yeah.
She seems genuinely
She
a fan.
loves The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Whenever anyone calls Grogu now, whenever they used to call him Baby Yoda, she'd say the child. So she
and
at
that's
least
not even her
watches
network.
The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
She's not working for Disney
No.
in any capacity.
There
you go.
It's altruistic.
Well, I think that really what we need, though, is the next season, Book of Boba Fett or Mandalorian. We need to create a TikTok inspired by that new season. Then we could get into that Today Show. What segment is it? What is it called?
The Morning Boost.
Morning Boost. Okay.
It's what they show after all the sad. They tell us all the sad news about how the world is falling apart,
Yeah.
and then they show us a picture of a baby hugging a dog.
Exactly. Like, here's a baby that fed a hot dog to a dog. And you're like, oh, man, the world's not that bad.
My only answer was Katie Couric, because I haven't watched the Today Show since Katie left.
Yeah, that's it's a long time ago.
Yeah,
I used to watch. The only thing I remember is I would always be at the end of the year when they would do their end of the year montage.
Oh, sure.
That was like such a big deal when I was a kid.
I'll tell you
watch
what.
that.
A few years ago, when they had to figure out how to cut end of year montage without Lauer in it, people were like, it was the editors deserve an award for like the amount of footage they had to lose, and rightfully so. Obviously, he's a monster. But like, it was one of these things where it's like, wow, they impressively made it seem like he never existed, which is a good way to go about it.
Yeah,
because that guy sucks.
As we're talking about the broadcast industry, very exciting here on the Droids, we are bringing in a pro broadcaster to talk about how they've never seen Star Wars. Sam Levitt is a minor league baseball play-by-play announcer. He also announces games for ESPN Plus, as well as different outlets and teams across this country. Phenomenal announcer. If you ever check him out, go and find him on Twitter at Sammy Lev, and then he will tell you, as well as TikTok, I believe, is at Sammy Lev as well.
No, ESPN Plus is a Disney property, correct?
Exactly. So,
could he get me in touch with Ned?
He might be able to. It's all great. We'll have to ask him. In this conversation, it was just me talking to him, but you'll get a chance to talk to him as well, Ryan, so you can ask him that. Now, Sam is not a Star Wars guy. He's not much of a movie guy. So it's going to be interesting to hear a very different perspective than what we're used to on the pod. And he can tell you a little bit more about where he's coming from before he gets into it. But guys, this is a great new thing for us to do. And it's hard to find people who've never watched any Star Wars. Like maybe they've seen a little bit.
So this might be his first movie.
Oh, he did mention that he's seen a few now.
Oh. He's seen a few movies?
I told him that we are all going to be open because, hey, everybody's got different experiences. You can't harp on anybody for it. He loves Field of Dreams. He'll talk about that. And he also loves, he's gotten very into the Marvel movies recently.
All right.
Nice. I know both those things.
Good way to
start. One a little more than the other.
Field of Dreams.
Well,
let's get an introduction to Sam.
What I know from Field of Dreams is that hot dogs are very dangerous.
Exactly. Let's get an introduction to Sam. And this is a different Sam, guys. For those of you who've been listening to the pod for a long time, we're not replacing our standard Sam.
Well, this is new Sam.
This is like this is like when they replace Aunt Viva on Fresh Prince, right?
Yes, and in 20 years we'll have a reunion special where we all talk to Sam for the first time.
Yeah, exactly.
But here's Mike's interview with new Sam.
Very pleased to be here on the Droids with a new addition to the podcast, a guest here with us in Sam Levitt. And Sam, thank you so much for being here. We brought you on for one particular reason. You've never watched a single Star Wars, whether it be a movie, a TV series, an animated special, the holiday special. You haven't seen any of it. We want to know who you are, but first of all, tell us why you've never seen any Star Wars.
You know, it's a good question. I have never really been into, I guess you could say, movies in general, but especially things I would consider, and this might be a mischaracterization, like sci-fi or fiction. Like I don't know. I was just never into the Star Wars type thing, never into even superhero movies, which is ironic because I with my roommate here in Chicago, I just started watching some of the Marvel movies, and I watched Iron Man for the first time. I've seen Iron Man 1 and Iron Man 2, and they're awesome. Like, they're so good. I had no idea that they were movies based in the real world and had actual humans behind them. Like, I just thought it was all fantasy. So I've never been into stuff like that. Anything I consider, you know, again, I'm probably not getting it right by saying it's sci-fi or anything like that. But I think you know what I mean. Like anything that's kind of in that kind of realm of, you know, being kind of spacey and science fiction-y, and it's never really been me. But I will say that watching the Marvel movies has opened my eyes that maybe it's something I would like. But I have very little knowledge about Star Wars or really anything like it.
Well, this is why we wanted you on the podcast, because for the listeners who've been with us for a while, they know we're kind of four like-minded individuals who've loved Star Wars for the majority of our lives. We wanted to bring in someone who's never seen it, who's never had the experience of it, and really because it's a rarity. You know, there's not a lot of people who haven't seen it in some form, even if they don't know it well, even if they don't love it. They've been exposed to Star Wars, and you're not far off. It's sci-fi fantasy. It's a little bit of both. There are things that, you know, even we say on the podcast that some other fans might consider sacrilegious, but in fairness to anyone, everything now is open to any audience, and for those who would want to gatekeep in any way, you know, forget them. So We're thrilled to have you here to experience this. What do you know about Star Wars at this moment?
I don't know a lot. I know the names of some of the main characters like Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader and R2-D2, just because how could you not, being, you know, a member of society. But honestly, and Princess Leia. But honestly, other than that, I couldn't tell you what the actual plot line is. I couldn't tell you what the actual story is about. That's about all I know, quite honestly. Those few big characters like R2-D2 and Luke Skywalker and I Am Your Father and the scrolling yellow text. That's it.
That
honestly
was a question for me, was whether or not the way you were describing it, I'm like, do you know the I Am Your Father? So you know the relationship between a few of the characters. You know, like that they're family in some way.
Kinda. I don't think I could tell you with confidence like what exactly the relationship between Luke and Darth Vader is, or who that actually is. I know the line, but honestly, if I had to say confidently what that actually is, that line, what it means in the context of the movie and the relationship, I really wouldn't be confident that I'm actually saying what it actually is.
It's a pop cultural touchstone. It's as you said, you'd have to be living in isolation beyond what we're all living in right now to not have some idea of that line or of those characters that they exist. You talking about watching Marvel for the first time, you know, it'll be interesting because obviously there's very different eras of Star Wars, and in these movies that you're going to watch, not with us, but for us and then discuss with us. I think there's going to be aspects of it that are going to remind you in the later Star Wars of those Marvel movies and kind of hopefully scratch that itch for you as well. You know, some of the older ones may feel a little bit paced differently than what you'd experience in that respect. And then there's ones from the late 90s, early 2000s, which again have elements of both. I'm curious, outside of these superheroes, sci-fi, space adventures, what would you say your favorite movies are, even though you're not much of a movie guy?
I would say my favorite movies would be Field of Dreams, Superbad. I'm trying to think of others. My favorite movies. I love Field of Dreams. I love Superbad. I like a lot of comedies. I mean, I've liked a lot of the dramas I've seen over time. Like, I don't know why I'm thinking about this one, Inception. But I'm not a big movie guy. I don't go run to see the latest movie, especially if it's something like in the Star Wars type elk or a superhero elk. Maybe that'll change now that I'm seeing the Marvel movies. But it like, honestly, you asked me the question and I don't really have a great answer. Yeah. Like Field of Dreams is always my answer because I love it as a baseball movie and I've seen it a million times, but I don't know. It's not in me where I rush to go see movies or you know what it is? It's funny living with my current roommate because she watches a lot of TV and a lot of movies, and it's made me realize how differently I'm kind of wired when it comes to my downtime, because my first instinct is really not to put on a series or not to put on a movie. It's to, either like throw on a random channel and watch Seinfeld or watch ESPN or something, or like literally just watch YouTube videos. I mean, that's my first instinct. So it's been interesting to see that, because my first instinct is not to see a movie.
I don't think you're alone in that. I think there are a lot of people now who turn to YouTube particularly to find the majority of their entertainment. I think the group here on this podcast that you'll meet in our first reaction that you have to Star Wars Episode 4: A New Hope, the original film from 1977, we're all a group of, like, we'll sit down and we're going to watch movie or TV series in the way that maybe your roommate is. But there's a couple things you mentioned. You mentioned the comedy element. You mentioned that that's going to stand out to you. Fortunately, there's a lot of good comedy in Star Wars, and hopefully that'll resonate for you. It's not so based on knowledge of Star Wars or sci-fi to get the comedy. There's a lot of like grounded, realistic comedy that you almost are surprised and taken aback by that it's in the movie. I would think that would come through. But also, are you aware of the connection of Field of Dreams and Star Wars?
Not at all. Right. Actually, sorry. I am. I'm aware of one connection, and that would be James Earl Jones.
That's the one I'm going for.
Even I know connection.
That. I'm saying if you enjoy James Earl Jones, and obviously, how could you not enjoy his soliloquy at the end of Field of Dreams? It's probably, one of the reasons we all love that movie and love baseball. You're going to enjoy what he brings to Star Wars because it's the gravitas is readily apparent from him throughout his performance in the films. I think that is, probably gives a good idea of where you're at heading into this. What is the undertaking of watching 9 movies and talking about it with some hardcore, crazy Star Wars fans? How does that make you feel?
I don't mind. Well, I don't mind doing it for you, Mike, because I like you and I like talking to you. I will say that the task of watching 9 long movies is a lot. I don't know the time frame that I will actually do this in, but you know what? As like a professional and a broadcaster, I think something I've realized in the last few years is that I need to get better at knowing not pop culture, because I actually think I'm pretty clued in with current pop culture and music and things like that. Maybe not like the TV movie side of things, but I need to be better at knowing big things like this, including Star Wars, and being able to reference them and react when other people reference them. So yeah,
So this is good for you. This is going to be good for you.
I think it will. I think it'll be good for me. I don't know. I'm kind of worried that I'm not going to like it or find them really boring and not going to want to watch all of them. But I think overall for me as a human being, it will be a good thing. And one more thing, which I just thought about and I think is really funny. In minor league baseball, very, very common to have Star Wars night. Okay, I've had no joke. I've had a Star Wars night, I think, at every team I've ever been with. And I think we've had almost every season that I've been in minor league baseball, we've had a Star Wars night. And often that will include me doing interviews with like people dressed up as stormtroopers and stuff. And I'm totally, see, they don't know this and they probably won't listen to this. But they don't know this, but I've never seen Star Wars. I don't know what the heck I'm talking about.
I don't know. You might have given yourself away in those interviews. If you haven't seen it, I think you might have given yourself away. They're like, who is this guy?
Yeah. So that's good. So it's on a number of different levels. I think it will be I think it'll be a really good thing.
Well, and for those of you who don't know, we introduced before Sam jumped on here with us that Sam is a minor league baseball play-by-play announcer, a sportscaster. So I was actually going to bring up a Star Wars night and how you get by on those nights. So that's good, and I'm glad we can again provide that for you. So hopefully in the future you can add a little bit more, maybe make some references. I think as we talk about this, maybe we'll at the end of each we'll be like, did you catch any lines in there you want to use in a broadcast going forward?
Right,
because there are some that are ripe for that. I'm sure plenty of announcers have done that in the past. I've followed your career. We've known each other for a while. You typically are watching at home when you're watching something. Just a pretty modest setup, right? Because you move around a lot, you're traveling a lot. How will you be watching this? And I say that as the movie fanatics in not only this podcast, but those listeners, some are very set on their ways of like, it needs to be Dolby 5.1, THX, full surround sound. I need absolute full screen, big screen, everything. How are you going to be experiencing these movies?
So at least for the time being here in Chicago, where I'm living, I sublet a room. I have a very, very nice roommate. We get along great, but it is a sublet in her apartment. Here, for the time being, I will very likely watch it in the living room. TV is mounted on the wall. It's a nice living room, good couch setup, very comfortable. We've talked about this already, actually, that I may have to be watching the Star Wars movies, and I've been watching it with her, the Marvel movies. So, and again, that's why I have some hope, because I never thought I would have liked the Iron Man movies, and we also watched Captain America, and they were awesome. So that's why I have hope. But I may watch some of them, if not all of them, with her. We'll see how it works out. But yeah, pretty basic setup. Now, if this extends to baseball season and I go back to Texas, the good news is that I will watch it on a TV. It may be a bit of a different setup in a lawn chair and a TV that's on the ground. But I think with all these, I will watch it on a very basic TV. There's no surround sound. Sound's going to be coming out from the TV, but it should be a pretty comfortable setup, especially with my current living situation.
Well, with the unfortunate situation we're all in, if this was different times, we'd find a way to get you to the biggest screen possible. Because a movie like Star Wars should be experienced with the loudest speakers and the biggest screen. That doesn't mean it can't have the same impact on the small screen.
Right.
But I think, that pretty much gets us ready for you to watch Star Wars. And you're probably not familiar, but we're going to set you up with the order of release, as in the release date order of the film. So starting with Star Wars, which originally was just called Star Wars, but as this was expanded, it became Episode 4, A New Hope. Then there's Empire Strikes Back in 1980, followed by Return of the Jedi in 1983. From there, the timeline then splits backwards. And I think this will be helpful for you because, obviously, you would maybe typically, if you weren't a part of this podcast, just watch them 1 through 9 as they're ordered. In late 1999 is Episode 1. So it's the prequel series, which comes up after that. So there's Episode 1, which is The Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones. Episode 2, which came, I think, in 2002. And then in 2005 was Revenge of the Sith, which was Episode 3. So those 3 movies technically happened before the first 3 movies that you'll see. None of this you need to remember, but just giving you a setup of how you're going to actually watch these. And then more recently, Episodes 7, 8, and 9, The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, and then The Rise of Skywalker in 2015, 2017, and 2019. That's what will close you out. So we'll set you up. We'll let you know which one you should watch each week. You don't need to be, thinking any more about it from there. Just enjoy the story. Hopefully you're along for the ride. And, Sam, we're very excited to talk to you about all of it and appreciate you coming on. Appreciate you putting in what is going to amount to many, many hours of Star Wars.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be good for me in a lot of ways, and we'll see if I like it. Again, my gut feeling says it might be tough for me to get through, but then again, I'm telling you, this latest Marvel kick that I'm on that's part of the reason why I've agreed to do this, because I think there's a chance I may really like it. I really don't know. So I'm happy to do it and looking forward to it.
There's no judgment on our side. You do not need to feel like you need to tell us anything but the full truth of what you felt about watching these. Do not butter it up just because we love Star Wars. We want to know what your unvarnished opinion is of these films. So, Sam, appreciate you joining us. We look forward to talking to you after you watch the first one coming up in the next few weeks. We'll get you back on the podcast. You can follow Sam on Twitter at Sammy Lev, and then on TikTok. What's your TikTok username, Sam?
The TikTok username is Sammy Levitt, Levitt.
All right. Check him out there. A lot of great stuff, especially if you're a baseball fan. Check out what Sam's bringing, and we cannot wait to talk Star Wars with you. Well, it's going to be exciting to hear Sam's reactions. I'm really hoping he likes the movies, guys, because we're asking him to watch 9 movies, and if this isn't his cup of tea right off the bat, it's going to be a long few weeks for Sam joining us.
Do you think that he'll like the part where Darth Vader says that's not a gun, it's your finger?
Yes. And then they'll get in a van together and go and find Moonlight Graham. Moonlight Graham, Grand Moff Tarkin. That's got to be it, right?
Moonlight Grand Moff Tarkin. We did it.
Wow.
For anyone listening,
Yeah.
a little peek behind the sausage. This is the third time we're doing this. That joke, I thought that joke was good enough that we should do it 3 times
I
until we
like
got
that
it
each time.
right.
I like that each time it was harder to get out too. So you heard the best take here. That was great. I hope
Moonlight Grand Moff Tarkin.
I hope the movie blows his mind like somebody that saw it in 1977.
We've finally reached the end of part 1 of the Light of the Jedi. Guys, High Republic, Light of the Jedi, we've been going through these chapters. We still got a lot left in the story, but we're going to finish off here chapter 16, 17, and 18, and the interlude that ends the first part of our story with the great disaster. And we have really, we stick with our characters that we know so far until we get to the interlude, and some real heartstring pulling moments in these few chapters, and really high drama. And I think twists and turns that I thought really we were not going there, as the countdown to impact wasn't really an impact.
Right.
That was an interesting thing that we've been waiting for, this impact
was the
whole time, and yet we didn't have an impact. It was a little bit shocking.
I'll be honest. This is the first time in the book I was a little disappointed. I felt a little lied to. Not because there wasn't an impact. I didn't want an impact, but if there's a countdown to something for 120 pages, you generally want it to happen.
You want to see the net result of this. Yeah, I mean,
it felt just a little. I felt a little lied to.
A little bit.
The way they were describing it, like the potential they were building up for it hitting, it did really kind of, like, as bad as I feel for the Hetzel Prime system, I kind of wanted it to happen.
Yeah, like a little bit, just because dramatically you wanted to see where do we go from here.
Yeah, exactly.
But to see everyone succeed, it was like, well, then what was the first act?
Right.
But I guess, I trust that there will be a second act. But there was a little where I was like, if I'm going to harbor any criticism, it was a little cheap to me to like build suspense toward a thing that they knew was not going to happen.
Yeah. But I would say that now, in reality, the great disaster is the legacy run and breaking up in hyperspace. That's the great disaster, which we felt like we were building to a bigger disaster. But this one... I mean,
it breaking apart and then, killing literally billions of people. I guess we're bloodthirsty here on the
Well, it didn't kill billions, did it? I thought it killed
20 million people
20 million.
On that one planet, and then I'm assuming, maybe not billions.
Yeah, I mean, look, let's get an accurate body count. If we're getting into the body count, let's at least make it.
So I'd say probably close to 100 million. So
could be.
Yeah, I guess not that big.
Well, in Chapter 16, we rejoin the Solar Array and Captain Bright and his group of peoples and Inaman, and they're doing their rescue mission.
I have to issue a retraction from last time.
You had me questioning myself so much, Ryan. I was like, I read that chapter twice. I don't remember a Twi'lek.
How beautifully, what a good friend that you just let me do it.
I sensed it in Mike's voice, too, and he went, oh.
I did, didn't I?
I didn't sense it at all, so what a bad friend I am. I was just doing my own thing, but you guys don't even need to be here.
I assumed I just missed it.
I was a little busy bee. I had read ahead a little bit, and I conflated some stuff with the Twi'lek. It sounds like a locker room story. And But yeah, so I had mentioned, sorry, I'm issuing, if you're listening to these in reverse order, I apologize for spoiling this in the future, and anyone who was spoiled, I apologize.
I mean, it's not much of a spoiler, to be fair.
There is a Twi'lek, and that's about what I spoiled.
Well, and really the Twi'lek is what ends up changing the course of things for us in Captain Bright. Obviously Inaman is doing his best to stabilize the station and the solar array. They can't leave, or he can't leave, and he's going to continue to input.
Did I spoil this part too?
No, you didn't.
Okay, good.
He had to input the sequence into the reactor to make sure that they had the time to be able to get off the ship. Captain Bright does his best and actually switches places with him, and he can't end up leaving, and we get a wonderful, once again, this entire thing of We're All the Republic has paid off in spades, I think.
Yeah.
They've really set up some beautifully dramatic moments where that continues to add layers of significance. Not only because it's something that's been stated about this is the mantra, but Innamin and Bright have used it back and forth several times, and then that's how Bright kind of is sent off and sent out in his final moments. So it was really...
Yeah.
Just
it's
kind of a
also
beautiful
like,
thing.
there's like this like aspirational thing about it because it's so far from the world we live in
Yeah.
that it's almost like, I mean, Star Wars is a fairy tale.
If only, Star Wars, it never talks about politics. It's never been about
I
politics.
like to
guys.
believe that when they say a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, it's happening in our reality. That's always my take on that.
Like a spoiler alert for... I can't spoil it without saying what I'm spoiling. Spoiler for Battlestar Galactica. It's a little bit what
Or
happens.
Planet of the Apes or something. Yeah, but I always hope
Yeah,
there's
so
a little...
Planet of the Apes is it's-
I always hope there's a little hint of that. This chapter, my only gripe with it is that they didn't name the pill droid. I thought he'd get his name.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, like at the end, he'd be
Yeah,
like,
or
"My
something
name's
like-
Tylenol."
You may call me Brian.
Brian. I like that.
I think I
I
stole
was
that
just
from.
learning to love.
I think I stole that from Community, and then what? That's The Simpsons.
Mine was The Office.
Oh, it was The Office. Okay.
Chris, do you wanna?
K2SO.
Nice.
But I like that we get the mystery of the eighth passenger on the solar array of the Twi'lek. It will be intriguing to see where that goes, because we learn a little bit later on during the interlude that there are some villainous creatures out there. We don't really know enough about them in the first introduction, but they don't seem to be. They seem to be of one species. And so who is this Twi'lek? What is this Twi'lek related to? Is this the different villain that we're speaking of versus just these marauders, which either the Nihil? I don't remember how to pronounce
It's the Nihil, the Nihil, the Nihil. I don't know what it is.
Well, we'll get that right. I'm sure we can watch part of the High Republic
Nihil.
show and get that
Very, very reminiscent in a way of the Reapers from
Yes.
Firefly.
That's what I was thinking of, too. I
and
was
the
thinking
way
of-
they're described, although it sounds like they're a little more calculated.
there's a lot of Star Trek races like that as well. Where they
Well,
kinda
I got the impression of JJ's Star Trek from 2009,
Yeah.
the first one, of that
Of
kind of
Nero's
ship and a
ship?
cloud, and
Yeah, just that kind of like organic nature of the ships with like spears with spikes and things. Do we think that the
Don't tell me it didn't happen. I watched it happen.
do we think that the Twi'lek passed that information into who was it that was like I know what I have to do now?
Are you talking about with the where they had to
Because as soon as he
fix
found
the
the
station?
well, as soon as he found the Twi'lek, he like realized he had to run back to the reactor. Unless I read that wrong.
Oh, I just think he knew it as like, I can only save this other person.
Okay, I wasn't
Or,
sure
sorry,
if there
this
was
other
some kind
being.
of force thing happening with the Twi'lek and that guy who was
I
No,
didn't
I
read
think
it
it's
that
because
way.
he
I mean-
realized that he had to send the pill droid because he couldn't carry
Yeah,
the Twi'lek.
exactly.
Gotcha.
Yeah, 'cause
How
there was
big
no
is
way
this
to get
pill
back.
droid? I picture it like a Totoro-sized droid.
How big is the Twi'lek?
They did a great job of describing the like stretcher again that
Yeah.
comes out of the pill
Yeah.
droid. So that was kind
so
of
I picture it like Big Hero 6 or something like
Love
that.
Big Hero
I
6.
liked the air of mystery they gave it. That, and I'll repeat myself since I mentioned it last week too, of them saying that like maybe he didn't notice him, or maybe, and then the sentence
Yeah.
literally cuts off
Yep.
on purpose, not a typo. And I'm curious what he was implying, that it's like maybe they had an altercation
Oh.
and like he didn't have time to think about
I
it,
didn't
or
pick
like
up on
maybe he didn't want to find him, or was like, I'm not going to worry about this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where it was like maybe he saw him and was like, I can't deal with this right now. I'm gonna save myself. I don't know.
Well,
I still don't know. I
Obviously-
didn't know last week. Don't know this week.
we don't have any visuals of Captain Bright, but for those who've always thought Kit Fisto was quite a handsome devil, to no longer have the handsomeness of Captain Bright, another Nautilin, is a bit disappointing, right? You know,
Those big, you could get lost in those eyes. That's for sure.
yeah. So a little sad. To
Don't even get me started on the tentacles.
But I did love. We talked about just the Inaman and Captain Bright relationship, but I just love where he kind of is having his final message to him and talking to him how he's been like, look, I've let you get away with things, the insubordination, the joking around, but life is short, and I gave you an order. If you don't follow it, I'll see you court-martialed. Then they both know that he can't do anything about that because he's going to die anyway. But they built that up, or Charles Soule built that up really well in this, and it is just so refreshing to have like minor character moments that pay off so well in a story that is as broad as this one with as many different characters. I care enough about these 4 chapters worth of these characters, and in the early going, the 3 chapters that were just individually about those characters who were then dead within the end of the chapter, and I cared that much about them. It's really wonderful. Well, from there we get to really the heart of what we've been expecting, this build-up, 4 minutes to impact, Chapter 17, Hetzel Prime. And this is really a lot of Avar Kriss communicating with the rest of the Jedi, doing their best as they all come together to save the entire system and the overall, the essential, the projectile or the emergence as they become called a little later on.
The ship full of Tabanan? What's it called?
Yeah, Tabanan, with that fuel source that would blow up the star and kill everyone. They all work together to solve this crisis, and what we all thought was going to be the end of them. And it actually made me sit here, and I was reading it. I was like, great, we've been introduced to all these wonderful Jedi, and they're all about to die.
They're all on the cover.
I was pretty psyched when this, even though, like I said, Destruction's fun to read sometimes, but I was pretty psyched, though. I think in the first pod, I said, wouldn't it be awesome if the Jedi stopped this?
Yeah. You did? You did say that.
And guess what happened?
Guess what happened?
It's true. I was very pleased that they actually used that. But I feel like some of the other stuff the other stuff worked for smaller things. I just feel like it kind of diminished why didn't they just do this from the start? But I guess they didn't have the stakes away.
And I also don't think that they could have with all the projectiles at one time.
Yes, exactly.
It was to focus on one was their only chance of moving one.
This reminded me of in cartoons when there's somebody knocks a bee's nest down and there's a swarm of bees and it makes a giant finger and starts chasing people. This was like that with the Force. They were all I pictured the Force making a huge hand and pushing the ship over.
Yeah, there were things that one thing that's a bummer is that it kept describing Jedi passing out and then dying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it did. It gave what was the heft and the weight of what they were trying to accomplish, which was beneficial.
How dope was that when she used her lightsaber as a tuning fork?
Yeah. Yes.
That was the coolest thing in the world. I was soaring with the eagle's nest to read this.
It was
it rocked. Cool. She's running amongst a wheat. You could picture it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Then she sits down and floats and spins her lightsaber into a tuning fork to communicate with the Force and make a giant hand out of bees.
Well, but also when it ends and the lightsaber just falls.
Yes.
That is easily pictured in my mind.
My gosh,
and I feel like we haven't seen that in Star Wars before. Maybe in the animated versions of it, but where a lightsaber is just being suspended in front of a character, then both lightsaber and Jedi both fall together.
Well, it's just so effortlessly using the Force and just this level of mastery. I think we've talked about it throughout the last couple of weeks. It's just the level of mastery of the Force that they're describing here it's pretty new to us. We haven't seen them use this, and then you're getting a little bit into also just mentally where these Jedi are at doing the stuff, which we really don't get a lot of in any of the other kind of media. I mean, I don't know, can't speak for the books, but in this one we're getting a lot of it.
A lot of it, we've, a few weeks ago, I think we mentioned the interiority of dealing with the Force we get to see, which is a cool insight.
Very cool. I like the detail she had to be on the planet to kind of feel what everything was feeling on the planet. So it's like, you gotta have
difference.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You need that sense of urgency that the planet has to know where things, like how it's gonna happen.
Well, in a world where midichlorians are communicating with other midichlorians, you got to get close to the midichlorians. You know what I mean? And that's what it is. Tiny organisms talking to other tiny organisms.
Yeah,
the planet's gonna have more of those than empty space.
Yeah. Was there a subchapter that I missed here where they were talking about the heads of midichlorians?
Is that the one that expelled all of the oil that smells? Is it her job to clean out her vector?
It must be.
Or is there like a youngling or a Padawan?
Presumably you could use the Force to do that, I think.
Not Bell. Don't make Bell do that. He's a great one.
I just thought that was I was almost like, reading that, I was like thinking to the author, like, she wouldn't want you to share that.
It's a little embarrassing.
Didn't she?
It's like if I was using the Force and was like... Like, I wouldn't want him to put that in a book.
Yeah.
Didn't you say that the last time we were talking about her when she was using the vector?
It's all mellish. Yeah, I did say that they shouldn't have shared it. I didn't do the fart joke last time, though. I would have remembered.
You didn't, this time you got in.
Yeah.
But I also like the idea of the galaxy all cheering in relief, but then those who live in darkness scowling, hoping that the Jedi would fail. Like, basically, this was broadcast across the entire galaxy.
Yeah.
Everyone knew this was happening, which was kind of a cool thing.
Very cool, and also that made me think of like The Last Jedi and how at the end the kids were telling the story, like the tale of Luke, like people witnessed it. I mean, I think it's at this time frame in Star Wars, this is why the Jedi rule the galaxy, so to speak. Like, this is why they are a benevolent force, because they have like this tale, and they showed the Chancellor of the biggest city planet, like, hey, look what we're doing. And I think they did it not only they said it was like to preserve in case it was the end, to show the end, but then it's like, well, it kind of works in the inverse way, like, don't mess around with us.
But I think we've never, as you talked about, the connection of this many Jedi at once, we've never seen that. We've never seen, obviously, the height of all of them, as you were talking about, Chris. But like this setting up a potential for whatever comes next in the storyline after the sequel trilogy, as in, could the Jedi be built again in a different form? And then we see this in realization. Like, they're laying the groundwork here for so many things that eventually could be used in a feature film. And that's part of what we've talked about, what they're doing. But I think this kind of power and this kind of connection among this many Jedi was just really well done and really well conceived.
Yeah, it's cool too, because when you think of like the prequels, it's like something must have happened to them where they're like, you guys can't do this anymore. Like,
well, because Yoda was there. Yoda was part of it.
Exactly.
So he's name checked in this as taking a break from the younglings.
Yeah.
Like, he says even Yoda, wherever he was with his little crew of younglings, his great wise mind sang its own part of the chorus, heartbreakingly beautiful, a voice of pure light, belying his physical appearance, not this crude matter indeed. Which, did they break the fourth wall there? Like, what? How can you write that in there? Because isn't that Avar Chris's, like, basically inner monologue thinking about Yoda? Or I guess you could say maybe Yoda is he's really repetitive. He always says he's not talking about everybody he introduces to the Force. He always says, not this crude matter indeed, or not this crude matter. That's my explanation for why it would have been said.
Maybe the narrator is the Force.
This gives an interesting view of the prequels in a way also, because it kind of shows us in retrospect that by the time we come in, which is, episode 1, the party's kind of already over.
Yeah.
They just like don't know it.
Which is why they reframed.
It just shows that it's like it's slightly weakened. The Jedi Council is still fully like in league with the Republic, and the Republic is still fully functioning. But the fact that it's the coup doesn't happen overnight,
right.
So it's the kind of thing where it shows us that it's like they were already weakened. They weren't at their height anymore. They were just kind of like putting forth the image of what they once were.
Well, they were complacent. They just had become complacent after all what would be hundreds of years of success.
Yeah. They weren't being like servants of the Republic with like joy.
Yeah.
they were like distrustful of the Republic, like Palpatine's obviously they were right on that one. But, it's interesting to kind of how it recontextualizes that.
Well, and we've got a lot of books to read and a lot of time ahead of us in the High Republic, and we'll see where we end up in terms of it leading directly to the Phantom Menace. I would think that we will get close enough to that time period, not obviously like, hey, okay, we pick up a day later and here's Qui-Gon, but I think that they're going to set it up as leading very quickly to that, and what these characters are now in the position they are in what is called the Fall of the Jedi. I mean, they're calling those 3 movies, that time period, the Fall of the Jedi.
Mm-hmm. Mike, you haven't finished Clone Wars yet?
No, sadly.
Oh, okay. All right, so I'll wait. I know that you and previous Sam haven't finished it, so I'll wait to.
Well, I appreciate that, and I need to catch up as soon as I possibly can.
I wasn't trying to call you out.
I am ambitious, and I keep on coming up with new projects and new TikToks to waste my time on instead of watching Clone Wars.
Well, you've been reading and watching Clone Wars at the same time, so that's tough to kind of.
It's hard. Hard.
Then we move into a very short chapter. We just learn about Abdallas, and where another one of these chunks of the cargo vessel of Legacy Run. This is where the 20 million are sadly dispatched in just a very short chapter, and they start calling it the emergences. So this is the first emergence. So it was just a glancing blow, even though I think they said 8 or so were on their way towards the system. Most of them missed, and then this one connected or the 7th glanced off and killed so many people near these factories. But then we get into this interlude, and it's called the Nihil or whatever the villains that we're learning about before we get to the end of this part.
Clearly someone looked at the name nihilism and was like, let's just take the ism off.
We care about nothing.
There you go. I should have just known that from the beginning. But we learn a little bit more about Abdallas and the planet, and then a little bit about the Guerrilla Technologies and their CEO, who, there's commentary about politics. We get into after this set early in part 2. There's a lot of trade discussions, which everyone knows. We love a Star Wars trade discussion. And I'm not making a joke at the expense of Star Wars. I like the trade stuff. I didn't before, and now I do.
Now you get into it.
But here, we're almost making a commentary on corporate executives and what they would do to protect those who work for them, and how only maybe this one corporate executive, and you see it, there's that one business where the guy is paying everyone $75,000 a year, works for the company no matter what. He's taking a smaller salary, and there are those people who, I'm sure there are probably also issues for that company as well, but there are people who are trying to run a business and also take care of the people who work for them, and this seems like a bit of a commentary and a send-up of corporate America, corporations worldwide, and this executive tried to take everyone and all their families off the planet, save the business, but save the families as well, which, I think was the Heroes mantra, right? From the show Heroes? Save the business, save the family.
Save the
planet.
Exactly. Save the family.
Brought to you.
I even thought that this was like a little like the nobility of this huge corporate leader, I thought was generous.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it was like, and again, it's only because he was about to be dispatched. Like it was like, it was like, listen, how do we make it like a sad thing that this guy, and it's like, he was the only one, and it's like this would never happen in any galaxy.
Ryan, I saw it refreshing. I gave an example of a corporate leader who's doing the right things in the real world. So
I think. It's funny, though, that they were kind of like, and this business's main export, Larry the Lothcat, a beloved holographic TV show. Loved by billions.
Wait, what was your example of the real life person?
I'm telling you, I can't remember what the company does, but he lessened his salary as CEO so that every person who works for the company can have at least a base salary of $75,000 a year with benefits.
That's a cool move.
Guys, that was my company. I am the secret benefactor here.
You're undercover boss?
That's right, Pip. I mean, Ryan.
You're why everyone who works at Droid Heads LLC makes $75,000 a year on this podcast.
Oh, by the way, I am terribly in debt. I don't even know how I came up with that money. Don't cash those checks, please.
But We talked already about the ships of the Nihil, whatever it is, and how, what they look like, the massive jagged spike of energy that came out of the cloud. That sort of reminded me a little bit of Galaxy's Quest as well, Galaxy Quest. And, there's, sadly, they don't make it very far. Most of these ships are taken out, and yeah.
My question is, the planet they're talking about is Abdallas, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in the previous chapter, this is the past of Abdallas, or the future? Like, did something happen on Abdallas that somebody was seeking revenge to shoot chunks of ship at Abdallas? I guess is this what this is tying into or suggesting?
No, I didn't think so. I thought this was
I
just
didn't think so. I think it was more that it's like, while they were like trying to save Hetzel Prime, this is what happened to Abdallas.
Okay, so it's
and
not.
It's like it was just further down the route of like the hyperspace lane.
Gotcha. Just like
that's what I took it as well.
I think this is Abdallas was supposed to be kind of like a junction point, right, where like the ships would stop.
Yeah,
I think they say
it wasn't very highly populated.
So it's kind of like.
So I think it's more of a thing of like Hetzel Prime. They put so much. I think hopefully the comment that they're eventually making is like Hetzel Prime. So much effort was put into, and like they're like, we're trying to save the outer rim, and then on the even further outer rim, they didn't do anything.
Right, exactly. There's if borrow a metaphor, there's always a bigger fish, or I don't know if that's the right metaphor, but basically, like Abdallas is like big whoop. You guys saved Hetzel Prime. We blew up.
Well, I think it's the introduction of the Nihil.
And I'm just wondering why they chose to like explain that the Nihil were on that planet. Like,
let's make sure we say it different every time.
Yeah, they weren't. They were in a cloud waiting off the planet.
Gotcha.
Which is mysterious. Like, did they know what's their deal? I think we're supposed to be intrigued by this.
Are they connected to the larger thing that was in hyperspace that caused this entire situation?
That we still don't know.
Was it there? I mean, they talk about having huge spikes and stuff on their ship. So was it just a spike sticking out?
I'd have to go back and look again.
Is it that easy?
Yeah.
I just don't know.
I would think, though, that if I feel like there's a bigger bad out there that we're going to meet, because if their entire goal was just like, hey, we're going to take down these freighters from this business that's leaving the planet versus we're taking out the Starlight Beacon. Like, someone's going after the Starlight Beacon. That's pretty clear as they allude to its importance over and over again.
Do you guys think that... So the Legacy run is the one that blew up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think if Sully was flying...
He could have saved it.
Birds.
He would have turned it upside down.
I mean, Captain Hedda.
He would have rolled it.
He would have rolled it.
Captain Hedda did it. She avoided it. It's the ship. The problem, like Sully, Denzel, they couldn't have done anything to keep that ship together.
Sully, a real person. Denzel's character.
I don't.
By the way, I've watched that movie
I've never
a lot of
seen
times, and his character's name is Whip Whitaker.
Oh,
really?
I have heard that.
Whip or Wit? I think it's Whip. Whip Whitaker.
We're gonna have to check that out.
The crash scene in Flight is stunning.
I know
he's gonna roll it.
It is wild.
He's gonna roll it.
Well, all right. This brings us to the end of part one. Part two, the paths, we will talk more about in our next edition of the pod. But each podcast, we're going to continue to discuss news as well. For those of you who are not reading the book, we will split things up a little bit, and more of New Sam talking about his first reactions next week on the podcast. New Sam will watch Star Wars, A New Hope, for the very first time. So I'm called Star Wars because I'm called A New Hope.
We're going to have to start calling him A New Hope.
Yeah.
And I'm excited for all of us to get a chance to talk to him. Good or bad at his reaction. It's just going to be interesting to hear what he thinks, having very little knowledge. He said he only really knows the line, I am your father. He doesn't know the context. He doesn't know. He knows that there are characters named Luke Skywalker and Princess Leia and Darth Vader, but he doesn't know anything else.
Wow.
And that's is
wonderful.
A level of purity that you only find on the droids.
Hey.
I mean, and I'm going to study up on all my sports metaphors because I know he's a sports guy. And
he's
going to impress him.
He's going to think you're trolling him, Ryan. Don't do that.
No, well, I want to impress him, so he'll introduce me to Ned.
Ryan, you'll knock him out of the park. Don't worry.
I'm gonna hit a field goal with this one.
Oh, come on. Sam and I both were in the same business for a while, and I take a little offense to that, Ryan.
You take offense to hit a field goal?
To that you are playing up that you don't know at least the basic terminology. You're a Mets fan.
But don't hold it against me.
No, Sam is a diehard. Sam is a diehard Mets fan.
I
am playing it up. I'm not a sports follower, but I do know generally sports terms. You know,
I know.
It's true. It's true, Mike. You got me, Mike.
I know Cracker Jacks. I know hot dogs.
I know, like, if you tell me, like, what the if we're in the bottom of the sixth, I know what that means.
Well, good. There you
right?
Go. Yeah. I think, we'll stick to Star Wars on this pod.
Bottom of the sixth on this beer. I'm off the pod. Is this what this is?
Yeah. Well, all right. We look forward to that. Thank you for joining us for this edition of the pod. Guys, this is fun times. There's so much more happening in Star Wars than I think we ever expected when The Mandalorian ended, and we're like, wow, we're probably 3 years from another movie and another year and a half. We've got a lot.
These books
to
are
cover.
great. Thank the maker. I'm having fun.
Oh, love it. Love it. That will do it for this week's edition of The Droids You're Looking For, a Star Wars podcast.
What they throw? Annie?
Nihil?
Nihil. Fried tip yip.
Still looking for Ronald Araki.
Nihil.
I'll have the Nihil roll, please.
Nihil Patrick Harris. Oh boy.